Production support for the weekly special is provided by Smithville, a locally owned business serving central and southern Indiana since 1922, with residential and business internet, voice, and security services. Smithville, local pride, global technology. Information at smithville.net. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Tonight we have a very special show for you about the incredible Native American heritage in Indiana. We'll travel to the All Nations Gathering in Rockville, Indiana. Learn about Miami Nation culture and spirituality through dance and drum. Visit some of the most important Miami Nation heritage sites in Indiana. And explore the issues facing the Miami Nation in Indiana today. All this and more right now on the weekly special.
Hello, I'm Joe Wren.
And I'm Pam Thrash. We're here at beautiful Griffey Lake in Bloomington, Indiana.
That's right, Pam, and this area was once home to the original residents of Indiana, the Miami Nation. But not many of today's current Indiana residents realize that the Miami people are still very much a part of the Hoosier heartland.
Yes, they are, and the weekly special set out to learn more about the history of the Miami Nation in Indiana and the state of the nation today.
First, we traveled to Peru, Indiana, the headquarters of the Miami Nation, to learn more about the history of the tribe and the historical sites that still exist today.
The Miami Indians are the only tribe here in Indiana that's got an origin story that says that we originally came from Indiana. Our origin story says that we came out of the water near the mouth of the St. Joe River, not far from South Bend, Indiana. The first contact the Europeans ever had with the Miami Indians was on the Fox River in Green Bay, and that was in the 1650s. Since that time, the Miamis claimed the homelands as the whole state of Indiana, 2/3 of Ohio, and 1/4 of the state of Illinois. We take that claim through what Little Turtle claimed as the lands of the Treaty of Greenville, which was the first treaty signed with the Miami Indians and the United States government. After the Treaty of Greenville, in 1795, the land in Ohio was lost to the Miamis and other Indians, and at that time, the Miamis moved more into the center core of Indiana around this area here and in Fort Wayne. At the same time, a lot of the other tribes that's homes in Ohio, like the Shawnee, the Delaware, also moved into Indiana. After the various treaties, the Miamis got pushed more and more into this area until the 1838 and 1840 treaty, signed at the Forks of the Wabash in Huntington, Indiana. The Forks of the Wabash Treaty of 1840 called for the removal of the Miamis from the state of Indiana. At the time of the removal, there was 5 family groups that was allowed to stay here. And the reason they were allowed to stay here, they had individual family reserves. The ones that never had reserves was the ones that had to leave. The families that was allowed to stay here was descendants of Frances Slocum, which she was a white captive kidnapped in the Wyoming Valley of Pennsylvania and was brought here and lived just right up the river at Deaf Man's Village for 60 years or so before her white family ended up finding her. So at the time of the removal, her brothers petitioned the government to keep her from being removed. So through what the joint resolution allowed her and 23 members of her family to stay here. The Richardville and Godfrey families was the 2 richest families in the state of Indiana. They had over 2,000 acres apiece of land to live on, so they were allowed to stay here. Then the Meshinga Reserve was allotted a 10-mile reserve for the descendants of Meshinga. After the removal in 1854, the United States government called for another treaty to be held in Washington, D.C. It was the only treaty signed in Washington, D.C. by the Miamis here, and at that time, the Miami Indians of Indiana had become a separate tribe from the Miami Nation. And in that treaty, we were called the Indiana Miamis, and the Western tribe in Kansas was called the Western Miamis. We were a federal recognized tribe here in the state until 1897. In 1897, our recognition was took by opinion from an Undersecretary of Interior, and since that time, we've had efforts to regain recognition back. During the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934 was the first attempt we had, and when we lost that attempt, we incorporated as a non-for-profit organization in 1937. That was a way we could maintain our tribal roles. That's how we've maintained our tribal identity to today. and keep our tribe together.
Coming up next, we had an opportunity to explore some of the most important sites in that history on our visit. And we started with the incredible Seven Pillars.
That's right. This natural formation has been a meeting place of the Native American communities for hundreds of years. The caves were once so large that later generations built a trading post at the location.
And it's been named one of Miami County's 7 wonders. Check it out.
We're here at the Seven Pillars on the Mississauga River. The Seven Pillars are one of the historic spots of the Miamis, and it has been for many generations. One of the largest settlement villages besides Kikionga and Fort Wayne was just right down the river a little ways. It was a spot where travelers down the river could rendezvous or say, hey, we're going to meet at this area. There was a village on one side of the river here. And it's known all through Indian country all over. I mean, there's been drawings of the Seven Pillars found in caves in the New York State by various tribes from hundreds of years ago. That gives you an idea of how much different Indian travel that's been through the area. The caves were a lot larger. They had trading posts in the caves. They had council meetings with different tribes and different bands of the Miamis. But today the Seven Pillars are suffering a lot from erosion, and it's eroded a lot since the early 1960s when the reservoir went in. Water comes up and down so much it's eroded the caves out. If you notice across the river here, there's not much room to stand in them anymore, never alone be having council meetings and things like that in them. So we're standing here on the south side of the river is on the Dunnigan Reserve. The Dunnigan Reserve, the property was lost from the Miamis for several years until around 1990. The tribe was able to purchase it back, and today we own 39 acres here, and this is where we do all of our longhouse ceremonies, Mother Moon ceremonies, other spiritual deals. We have different outings, picnicking, language camps, and other things we've held here. We've had our first homecoming on the language camps. We do a lot of nature things. We've got the Miami Garden we have here where we do native plants and things. Right now we've got a river cane just started. First time it's been in the area in a lot of years. This is one of the most sacred spots of the Miami Indians here in this area, and it has been for generations. Here in Hanging Rock, which is on the Wabash River up the river, they've all got different stories. Most all Miamis has heard different stories for generations about different things here at Seven Pillars. With our longhouse ceremonies, we have people from all other tribes here, and they all feel the same. Anybody that really comes and spends much time in the area will probably know. I mean, it's the feeling you get here, the sound, the feeling, and the way the trees sound, the wind blows, and for some reason, I mean, anybody that's spent much time here can tell the spiritual feeling, I guess it's all.
Cultural preservation is one of the Miami Nation of Indiana's top priorities, and the tribe's spiritual connection to their community and to the land is considered the heart of that culture.
That's right, and the weekly special spoke with the acting spiritual leader, Steve Buchanan, to learn more about the Miami way of life. Every year, the Miami Nation of Indiana holds their annual All Nations Gathering in Rockville, Indiana. The gathering not only provides a chance for the Miami to educate the public on the tribe's Indiana history, it also allows the tribe to commune, reconnect, and pay honor to the sacred traditions of the Miami Nation.
The spiritual traditions may have changed a little bit, but in general they're fairly close to the same. Because of the way technology and the way things are, you have to adapt to different things. You can't always do everything that was done back 100 years ago or 200 years ago, but custom-wise, most of it is just passed down from the elders down to the younger ones, and then hopefully they take hold of it and eventually we'll pass it on down. And so far, after hundreds and hundreds of years, it keeps going. There's always somebody that's willing to take hold, but most of our traditions are passed down orally. Nothing is written down. The purpose is to perform the ceremonies that needs to be performed at weddings, funerals, dedications, namings, and to just kind of help keep a balance among the tribal members and to keep them on the right track as they go through life. Because it's not really a religion, it's a culture, it's a way of life, it's a way of thinking. One of the things that I have noticed is the general public has a real misconception about the Native American belief. Our Bible, our church, is right where we're at. It's outside. This was our church that was provided for us from the grandfather. And it's the trees and the grass and the wind and just the things around us. That's our church, and we can pray and give thanks wherever we are. And people don't understand, I think, that we very much do believe in God and the Creator, and our whole lives are really surrounded by that. And that's how we kind of live our life, is trying to be as good as we possibly can. And that's really, I think, the most important thing is respect of each other, respect of our elders, and remember balance. You can't take unless you give. And as long as you have that take and give situation, just like breathing, you'll live a long and happy life, and so will our culture. As long as our culture can give and express and share, which is important that we share it, then we can also receive. And as long as we can get that roll going in a balanced situation, I think we'll be around for a long, long time to come.
The weekly special also visited a unique location, the only place in Indiana that has never been part of a U.S. territory.
Wow, can you believe that? But that is true. The land has always been in Native American ownership, and today it's home to a very important school. Built in 1860 on the Mishingomesia Reservation, the school was rebuilt to its original appearance. Check it out. In 1840, the United States government ceded a plot of land along the Mississinewa River to the Miami Nation.
Mishingomesia was the principal chief of the 10-mile reservation here. Preached in the church here, and this is almost the center of the reservation right here, so that's how the property ended up staying here. During the allotment of 1873, the different properties were allotted out to individual family groups, and this was part of the Mishingomesia family.
Recognizing the growing need for European integration, Chief Mishingomesia built the Miami Indian Village School on the reservation in 1860.
That was still an early part of the state here, and I mean, you know, there was a lot of farmers. The Miamis in the area was still hunters, and some of them did do some farming and things like that, but they was forced to do a lot of trading and different things with the white pioneers around the area, so the only way they could live and prosper like everybody else is to live the same as the other people around the area. He built the school for the purpose of teaching the Miami children around the area the English and the European way of life. He knew that that's the only way that they were going to have to succeed and live in the country, being this was the last area of a communable owned land for the tribe.
After its closure in 1898, the school was moved by a nearby farmer off the Miami land to be used as a corn crib. In 1998, however, the school was donated back to the tribe. Piece by piece, the Miami Indian Village School was relocated and restored to its original condition. Today, the school is a center of Miami cultural preservation, teaching the Miami language and lifestyle that was almost lost a century ago.
Well, I mean, it brings a lot of notoriety still back to the tribe and let people know that the tribe's still here. So, you know, we have a lot of the kids that come here that had no idea natives was even here, that the Miamis were, and, you know, they're just amazed by the one-room schoolhouse. It is the only wood-framed Indian schoolhouse left in the state. It's more of an education thing. It brings awareness that we're still here. It's kind of meaningful for the tribe knowing that, you know, it was once taught used to teach the European way of life. Now we're using it back to teach the Miami language and things like that. This property right here is the only property that's never been out of the hands of the Miami Indians. It was never willed to the United States government. So it's always been in the Miami hands. It's the only land left in Indiana that is. It's pretty spiritual for that reason.
In addition to the school, the land is also home to the largest Indian cemetery in the state.
Mashingamation and most of his band are buried in the cemetery behind the schoolhouse now. There's a lot of people buried that's not marked, never had tombstones to start with. A lot of the Indians never marked their graves at the time, so a lot of people felt there needed to be a need for a stone to be set up to show who is buried here in all the unmarked graves. That's what led to the idea with the Battlefield Society and with partnership with the Miamis to put a monument up here. And we've listed all the members that we know, people that is buried in the cemetery. A lot of the bigger stones here was of the more prominent Miamis in the area at the time before the tuberculosis outbreak hit. About 2/3 of the members here on the reservation perished through the tuberculosis, and that's what most of the main big tombstones were from that era. And Mashingamesha was one of the elder chiefs of the tribe. He lived to be 98 years old. By 1900, most of the property was gone out of the Indians' hands, and Mashingamesha and his sons was two of the last ones that was able to hold on to individual property on the reserve. That's how this property ended up still in the Miami's hands.
While the Miami Indian Village School is no longer active, the Miami Nation of Indiana has developed an incredible school of their own.
That's right, Joe. Every year, the tribe invites Miami children to participate in a special language school. Through lessons, music, and games, the Miami Nation is rebuilding its native language for generations to come.
Wow, can't wait to see. Let's take a look.
There are a number of challenges that the tribe has faced when looking at, not necessarily even revitalization. I think in a lot of elements there's not a revitalization that's needed, but just a continuation of what we have been doing for generations upon generations. The way our tribe is structured, we have individual family clans that do a lot of informal cultural sharing and development and things along the way, but then these clans come together at tribal functions on numerous occasions. So we have annual events that we do, the Miami Indian Reunion. It's been well over 100 years. This reunion's occurred at the same weekend at nearly the same location. More recent, it was focused around language revitalization because our last fluent speakers had died in the 60s. So although there were elders who knew words and phrases and a significant amount of documentation, there were no fluent speakers left at that point. So that's kind of where it all jump-started again in bringing the language back into our Miami homes. We now have an annual children's language program that we do. This will be the 5th year for it. It's become absolutely phenomenal. It's just a lot of fun. We sing and we dance, and they learn not only kind of the tangible elements of the language and the vocabulary and the manners in using it, but the intangible nature of camp and the things that come from it are the relationships that are built and teaching them how to integrate and develop their Miami identities and develop that and integrate it into their daily lives. So then they take that back to their families and they're encouraging it there. I would say what drove me to learn the language is the amount of culture and history that's embedded in language, and the loss of that also leads to the loss of those unique cultural components of our tribal identity. And I think that just seeing how important it was to everyone else as well, and how it was something that really brought our community together. We all have this common, kind of in our hearts, I guess, this common connection of respect and where we feel our responsibilities are. And so now that I'm seeing that in this new group of youth that are coming through, it's really exciting to me. And somewhere along the line, my grandmother had been interviewed, and I remember the video of her saying, we're here, we've always been here, and we'll always be here. We're not going anywhere, somewhere along those lines. And I think that seeing that in those children just reinforces to me that that's absolutely the case, that we're not going anywhere, that our culture will continue, it's only going to strengthen, and as a community, we're only going to grow. Aya, Wayne Swaone, Aaron, Dunnigan, Oliver, Nila Miamia.
For the Miami, celebrating their spirituality is a vital piece of their community, and giving honor has a very active approach.
That's right, Joe. Through the rich traditions of music and dance, the Miami community continues to pay respect to their heritage. We spoke with the Miami Nation head dancer, Sean Dunnigan, to learn more.
Grass dancing, it started years ago. Native people would go to a different location to set up their homes, you know, and they would send all the young boys and mainly young men and stuff out to go stomp the grass down and to make it nice and flat. So when they put up their wigwams or their teepees, and the grass would be all cut down real low so they weren't, walking through high grass. As a grass dancer dance, most of the time they're on their tiptoes and on the side of their feet and knocking the grass down, kind of mowing the grass more or less. In the mid-1800s, they started making grass dance regalia, which like I'm wearing myself, and it just represents the grass stuck to a young man. You have traditional dancing, a lot of traditional male and traditional female dancing. They mainly just take like a two-step dance. It's just kind of toe, heel, and around the arena. And that's just kind of representing how it was done more or less in the older times, And then they have fancy shawl dancers, and some people call them butterfly dancers. The fancy shawls, they'll usually have it really decorative and stuff, and they do a little bit of twists and twirls and stuff like that, and kind of represent like butterflies flying and birds flying and things like that. Learning to dance and stuff, and it's not an easy process really, but that's kind of what my job is to do today, teach the youth and the young what I've learned from my elders and stuff like that. Being a head dancer is a pretty important role because everybody looks up to you. Okay, what do I need to do, or when we come in on this type of dance, what do I do? And by watching me, you're going to learn. You're out there, you're dancing with the beat of the drum, and they say that the beat of the drum is the heartbeat of your nation, And the guys that's sitting on the drum, playing the drum, they're honoring women, honoring the birth givers, the women of our tribe, and even people that has passed away and stuff. It's all a big honorable thing. Being that the guys out there dancing, like say myself, have bells and stuff like that and bright colors that's flashy and stuff. So that's telling the grandfather up above, saying, look, I'm doing this for you, 90% of everything we do is all honoring grandfather or the creator of how we do things. The significance of a drum is usually a male hide on one side, a female on the other, because it takes a male and a female to be able to make new life. And the guys all sit around the drum, and they're doing that to honor the women and honor grandfather, grandmother. So every song we have is more or less to honor people and to have fun.
As you can see, the Miami Nation continues to thrive, building a strong cultural community for generations to come.
That's right, Pam, but as shocking as it seems, the Miami Nation of Indiana is not an officially recognized nation, either at the state or federal level. This oversight is one that the tribe has fought for years to change. We joined Chief Brian Buchanan to learn more.
We filed for a petition back in the 80s, and we were denied. And at that point, we'd been to the courts, judiciary, we'd been through the petition process, and the only way we could get our federal recognition reinstated or re-acknowledged is through an act of Congress. And with that, we got to have our congressional support through our senators and representatives on a federal level. On the state side of things, since the recognition was stripped back in 1897, this state has never had a state recognition process. And for us to be the indigenous here and not be able to go through an avenue to have a recognition process that we could actually accomplish that, we decided in this last 10 years that we would go after that state recognition. The tribe then decided we'd seek support. We do have support from our local senator, Randy Head, and he did actually introduce a bill. Now, I believe this is going on this next year, 3 years, for Miami state recognition. In the process of doing that, we've gained enough support through the communities and the counties to go after proclamations. And the proclamation really legally isn't binding for anything, but it is a strong sign of support through the community. When you've got mayors and city councils and county councils giving your proclamation for recognition and as a sovereign nation and government relationship with them, it's pretty strong. Right now we've got not quite 2/3 of the state, but we've got some of the biggest capitals and county seats of the state. And when we have our state legislators and our state senators looking at this bill, sitting in, like for this year, for example, sitting in the Judiciary Committee, it's just sitting there. That's something that we're going to be using on our behalf. I hope that it shows a strong sign to those guys to open their eyes and listen to our story, and let's correct this problem. So the Miami does have an opportunity to be state recognized and give us the respect and say, hey, yeah, you still do exist, and yes, we do respect you, and we would love to learn more about your culture and promote it, because that's what the state is. It is us. I mean, Indiana is because of the Miamis being here. I mean, that's what we are. I mean, we are a part of that. It's just more of a, I guess it's a loyalty to our ancestors of where they've been and where we've got to go to make it right. It's an injustice that was put to us that we've had to live with, and it needs to be corrected. And I think that's probably the same feeling all of us share. And it kind of hurts me to see, even though I grew up in Speedway, Indiana, in home of the Indianapolis 500. Well, it's the home of the Miami Indians of Indiana. That's what it is. We've got a lot of proof through archaeological digs and a lot of the studies that's gone on through the state. I mean, it's everywhere. Our history is everywhere. Our culture is everywhere. The state needs to at least respect that and acknowledge that we do exist.
Well, Joe, that does it for tonight. I learned a lot. I had no idea we had such an active Native American community here in Indiana.
It seems like it's such an important part of Indiana history, and I'm so glad that we were able to go there tonight.
Me too.
And thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Production support for the weekly special is provided by Smithville, a locally owned business serving central and southern Indiana since 1922, with residential and business internet, voice, and security services. Smithville, local pride, global technology. Information at smithville.net. And by WTIU members. Thank you.